So for 6.2, now that we've learned how to graph, we're actually going to be working with the x and y intercepts, and then graph using just the intercept. So first thing, what is the x-intercept? The x-intercept is the x-coordinate. It's not the entire coordinate, it's just the x-coordinate, so underline that. It's just the x-coordinate. Okay, if you want to use a highlighter, that's fine. Of the point where the line crosses, which axis do you think it's going to cross? The x or the y?
The y.
The x. It's going to cross the x-axis. That's why it's called the x-intercept. Okay, so the x-intercept is the x-coordinate of the point where a line crosses the x-axis. So y-intercept is going to be the y-coordinate, only the y-coordinate, of the point where the line crosses which axis? The y-axis. Okay. So on this example graph right here, let's first plot the point where the graph crosses. We are crossing the x-axis right here. So this is the x-intercept. And it's at the point x equals what? What's the x-coordinate here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's x equals -5. That's how we write the x-intercept. Okay, what about the y-intercept? Will you plot the point at the y-intercept?
Yes.
It's where the line crosses the y-axis, so it's right here. So this is the y-intercept. And it's at y equals what? 6. Okay, really quickly, what do you notice about, what's the entire coordinate for the x-intercept? It's -5 what? 0. So the y-coordinate of the x-intercept is always going to be 0. What about the y-intercept? The x-axis is what? 0. So the x-coordinate of the y-intercept is always 0. Which is why for the intercepts, for y-intercept we just have to write y equals. And for the x-intercept we just have to write x equals. Because the other coordinate we know will always be 0. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, so how do we find them? The x and y intercepts. Okay, because we know that the y-coordinate of the x-intercept is always 0, we plug in, to find the x-intercept, we plug in 0 for y and solve. So if we're looking for the x-intercept, we replace y with 0. If we're looking for the y-intercept, we plug in 0 for x. So we plug in 0 for the opposite one. Whichever one that we are not looking for, we plug in 0. Okay? Okay? So, I'm just going to recap for you guys really quick. I make my t-chart. One column is x, one column is y. To find the x-intercept, I plug in 0 for y, which gave me 2x equals 6. So I divide both sides by 2, and I get x equals 3. And that's 1 point. Which axis is it crossing, the x or the y?
So each one will have 2x.
Alright, so you should get, this x is 1 point. It's crossing which axis, x or y? X-axis. Y-intercept, we plug in 0 for x, which gave us 2 times 0 is 0, plus y equals 6. So my y-intercept, which crosses the y-axis, is at 6. So these are two separate points. Okay? Example 2. We have 4x minus 3y equals 12. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up my t-chart. Okay. I have an x-intercept and a y-intercept. Okay, to solve for the x-intercept, what do I do? Plug in 0 for y, so that's going to be 4x minus 3 times 0 equals 12. And to find the y-intercept, what do? Plug in 0 for x. So that's going to be 4 times 0 minus 3y equals 12. Will you guys right now solve for the x-intercept and the y-intercept?
You got another job.
You got another job.
You're so studying.
Okay, guys. So if I plugged in 0 for y, what do I get here?
4x.
4x equals 12. Okay.
Divide by 12. Or 4.
Divide by 4. And I got
equals 3.
x equals 3. And that's one answer, right?
Yes.
That's 1 point.
Negative 3y equals 12. Divide
Negative.
by 3.
Divide by
Negative
3.
X equals negative 4.
It's not an x, it's a y
Or
here.
y, sorry.
Y equals negative 4.
I'm used to think.
Yeah, I know. This, with graphing, the difference between x and y is very, very important, so make sure you're careful, okay? Everybody get those two answers?
Yeah.
Those are the right answers. Okay, so next thing, we're going to use this to graph. So how to graph using the x and y intercepts. First step is we are going to find the x and y intercepts using AT chart.
I think I like it this way.
Okay, so first step is to find the x and y intercepts. Step 2, we will plot the 2 points, and I'm going to have you underline 2 points because remember that we get 2 points as our answer. They don't combine to make 1 point. Okay, and then we are going to draw a line through the 2 points. And you put arrows at the end, always. Okay, actually, we'll draw a little line with arrows at the end to remind yourself. Okay, you always put arrows at the end of a line. Okay, so example number 3, find the x and y intercepts. So hopefully you realize that it was actually the same as the x and y intercepts we found on the front, right? Okay, so to find the x-intercept, we plug in 0 for y. So that gave me 2x plus 0 equals 6, which was 2x equals 6. And we divide both sides by 2 to get x equals 3. Okay, to find the y-intercept,
2 parentheses
2
0.
times 0 plus y equals 6. Now that's 0 plus y, so the same as just 1y equals 6. And those are our 2 answers.
Oh, you can stop there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so those are our 2 answers. So what we want to do is we want to graph each of these points. Now, the x-intercept lies on the x-axis, so we just have to count over 1, 2, 3 spaces and graph it right there.
Awesome.
Okay? The y-intercept lies on the y-axis, so along the y-axis we just count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces.
That's easy. I just got
Mhm. Okay, and then I draw a line through it.
You get free pizza and soda.
And that's my line. So I want you all to do example 4 by yourself. We already found the x and y intercept, so now you need to graph them. Okay, so I have an x-intercept of positive 3. Does that go on the x-axis or the y-axis? The x, so we go over 1, 2, 3 and put a point there. And the y-intercept is along the, which axis? Y, so we go up, down, negative 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We put a point there. Is that where you guys got your points? Okay, and then what's the last step? We're going to draw a line. So make sure that you draw a straight line through both of them and put the arrows at the ends, because lines go on forever. And that's how we do it. That's it. Question, or not question, we have a now an easier method to learning this. It's called the cover-up method. Okay? So, to make finding the x and y intercepts faster, cover up the term you don't want, and solve what is showing. So did you guys notice how when I'm looking for the x-intercept, when I plug in 0 for y, the y term just goes away? It's going to happen every single time, right? If I plug in 0 for this y, that multiplies to 0, and it just turned out to 4x equals 12. That happens every single time. So what we can do is if we're looking for the x-intercept, we just cover up the y term, and what am I left with? 4x equals 12, which is what we ended up with right here. What happens with the y-intercept? I cover up the x terms, and what am I left with? Negative 3y equals 12. Negative 3y equals 12. So that makes it just a little bit faster, so you don't have to write the plugging in 0 point. So you just cover up whatever it is you don't want. But you need to make sure that you don't forget that the signs are attached, okay? So for example, for this one, you can't cover up the 4x minus. You need to only cover up the 4x. Does that make sense? Okay? But that makes it a little bit faster. Okay, guys, so on the homework, if you want to use the cover-up method, that's fine. Just don't write this first line. So your T-chart will just start at 4x equals 12. Does that make sense? Okay.